Okay, hey everyone. Sorry, I'm trying to look like a Jedi here, or maybe more like a Sith with my hood on. But I'm Julius Musseau, CTO and co-founder here at MergeBase, and today I'm really excited to talk about container scanning. Welcome, Ram C. Very good to have you here. I'm actually giving everyone the ability to talk if they want to, but don't feel like you have to. And then feel free to like hit the chat, the Q&A as well too. So to start with, I just want to ask who here is familiar with container scanning? Who here has done a container scan before? You might have done it by accident too. You might not have done it on purpose. For example, yesterday I uploaded some of my containers to HubSpot, right? And then because I'm on one of the paid plans at HubSpot, let me see if I can get that to go, right? You can see, oh, that's Google Cloud Registry. So if you're using Google Cloud Registry, it's scanning, it's doing container scanning by default out of the gates. Here's Docker Hub. That's what I meant, not HubSpot. I meant Docker Hub. You know, so I'm on a paid plan on Docker Hub. So again, it's doing some scanning, some container scanning out of the gates there. You know, too high vulnerabilities with that one over there. Oh, mouse, come on, mouse. Only so, mouse. I want you to only show this one. Yeah. So you can see there's two high vulnerabilities here, and then it's talking about Log4j there. So that's HubSpot has some built-in containers. Not HubSpot, not HubSpot. Docker Hub. Docker Hub has some built-in container scanning. Here's JFrog X-Ray. Had to do a few mouse clicks to enable it, but yeah, it did it. It scanned them. It's finding vulnerabilities in them. Yeah. So that's just my question for everyone before we dive in. Vadim K, very good to have you here. I'm giving everyone the ability to talk if anyone wants to talk. Don't feel you have to. Yeah, so the question here is, who here has done some container scanning before? And I was just mentioning that, you know, you've probably done some container scanning maybe without even realizing it, just by uploading artifacts to Google Cloud Registry or Amazon Cloud Registry or Docker Hub or X-Ray. Okay, any takers? Anyone gonna answer that question? Or maybe raise your hand. Can you raise your hand if you have done a container scan before? Not sure. So no hands raised. And nobody's saying anything. Not sure how to interpret that. Is that a yes or no? Maybe I should have made a poll or something. Well, I've done container scanning. And so I will continue talking about container scanning. Tough crowd here, tough crowd. Okay, so my view of container scanning, and it's a little bit of, I think I'm going to make a bit of a splash here, right? I'm going to actually put something forward that the industry, container scanning industry as a whole, needs to clean up their act a little. Like, they're hitting us with a lot of stuff, right? For example, today, as you'll see, I have taken a base Ubuntu 20 image, right? And then I added Log4j to it. I added Log4j in 3 different ways. In what I would call easy mode, as in container scanners should definitely catch this, where I installed Log4j directly into the container image, the Docker image, using package management. And then in medium difficulty mode, I download Log4j from Maven and just save it to disk inside the container. And then in hard mode, it's exactly the same as medium difficulty mode, except that I then remove these 3 files from the Log4j jar file, right? Now, so what I've essentially done here is made 3 different images, actually 4 images in a way, if you count the let's see who's gonna, yeah. So I made one just the base plus wget, so it doesn't have log4j. This is just Ubuntu 20 with all the latest patches, completely up to date, and I just added wget to that one, right? So that should have no vulnerabilities. And then with difficulty easy, I added the log4j via package management. So container scanners should find that. Sure enough, you see more vulnerabilities on this one. Medium, I honestly didn't expect the container scanners to detect this one, but they did. And then medium rezipped was just a very small variation on medium, where I took the medium one, but then I unzipped log4j and rezipped it, right? So what I'm trying to do there is just cause to perturb the fingerprint, the SHA-1 or the SHA-2 or whatever it is these container scanners might be using under the hood to keep track of vulnerable files, right? So, oh, let's change the fingerprint, change the bytes on the inside of the log4j. And note that I didn't adjust any of the contents of the jar file. All I've done is unzip it, rezip it. That causes all the timestamps, I believe, to change. Maybe it didn't actually. I should double check that. And then log4j scan difficulty hard. In that case, what I'm doing is, like I said here, as I take the log4j jar and then I remove these 3 files. And so with these 4 images, all right, easy, medium rezipped, hard, and then the base image where we don't even have log4j. It gives me a nice test bed here to evaluate container scanners and see how they're doing. Any questions so far? I've gone and given, oh, we have another person has come. I think Mahmoud is how that your name is pronounced. So everyone, I'm giving everyone the ability to talk if they want to. And then I'm just asking, so far, is that clear what I'm doing here with container scanning and how I'm going to evaluate various container scanners? And again, feel free to speak up. I've given everyone mic, but feel free not to too. I mean, I know that can be a bit stressful to jump in on a webinar.
Hi, Julius.
Hello. Hey, good to hear from you.
You as well.
And yeah, so far it's clear what I'm trying to do?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, now that I've got these 5 images and I'm going to evaluate a bunch of container scanners, and I'm going to just show you the results actually before we really dive in. There is this an initial unexpected distracting problem that I found a bit frustrating. So I'm going to go into that in more depth during this webinar. But first, let's look at the actual results, right? Here. So I'm looking at, we're looking at Gripe and Trivy. These are command line scanners, right? So I'll show those a little bit later in the webinar. Then I also did X-Ray and Docker Hub and Google Cloud Registry. Those are online, right? So I've already kind of looked at those. So you can see a sneak peek of what those are coming back with. I'll show MergeBase, which I'll just use MergeBase on the command line. And then SNCC as well, I can use on the command line. I tried to use GitLab, but then when I got into GitLab and tried to do a container scan, GitLab's own documentation said you should use Gripe or Trivy. We have, you know, special recipes, YAML files that you can upload to your repository to cause it to use to integrate, you know, Trivy or Gripe scans directly into the GitLab dashboard. So GitLab has a little bit of ability there, but it's all based on Trivy or on Gripe. I wanted to look at Amazon Cloud Registry, but getting like the IAM roles and permissions and all that sorted out, just I was running out of time. So if anyone else has access to Amazon Cloud Registry, these images are actually public. Anyone can see them. Right, you just go to r/Julius Musseau/Ubuntu, and then here they are. And so you can download these Docker images that I created yourself, and then perhaps upload them to Amazon Cloud Registry. And I might work on that, later this week, just to see what Amazon Cloud Registry does. Based on the results here, I'm anticipating that it will get a yes in medium mode and probably a no in hard mode. And then Quay or Key is another popular container scanner. I just didn't get around to trying it out. So, these entries in the results table are still blank. If anybody wants to do that for me and send me the results, I'd be grateful. Okay, so let's go through these. First, I'm going to show you how I built the image. Okay. Any questions so far? Give you guys 3 more seconds. Just checking the Q&A here. Oh, and just to mention, Jim Manico was supposed to come. I jumped on a call with him at 7:30. Unfortunately, he just had a scheduling conflict and had to be on an airplane right now. And we could have tried having him on from the airplane. I just don't think that would have worked very well. So Jim and I did pre-record a little chit chat. We can play that recording if we have time, just near the end of the webinar. Okay, so now I'm going to really dive into to exactly what I did. I'm going to show everyone here exactly what I did. And you might learn a little bit about containers, or if you're already an expert, just give you confidence in the repeatability of this experiment. Okay, so I'm going to open up a terminal, make it big. I'm not really doing anything with log4j there. Let's just go to root. Okay, so I've got some Docker images. To start, base plus wget. I'll just show you how I made the base plus wget image. So let's see if there's if Ubuntu 20, if it changed at all since I last did it. No, it's up to date. So, since I took all these images yesterday, nothing has changed. Now I'm going to I have a little alias for DL, which is, so I'm running a Docker run TI. I mean, I can just do it. Look, just do it the hard way here without the alias. Entry point bash, right? Nope. Ubuntu 2004 bash. So what this does is it's just grabbing the Ubuntu 2004 image, and then in there it's just running the command bash, right? So I'm just nice way to just sort of peek into this image, see how it's looking, see what's in it, right? And I'm already as sudo, I'm going to do an apt update, just get it all nice and patched. And then what I'll do after I've got it updated, I'm going to do a dist upgrade, right? And if you had a Docker file, your Docker file is going to have these same commands, right? Update, dist upgrade to make sure it's completely up to date with all its latest patches. No, it already was completely up to date. And then in this case, I want to get wget and zip and unzip. These are just like important command line tools that I need for what I'm trying to apt install. Sorry. These command line tools will help me just accomplish what I'm trying to do in this experiment, right? So now I have a very basic Docker image here, prepped with the files I need. And, I'm just doing it interactively instead of with a Docker file, because I just find that a little more convenient for a very small experiment like this. And then what I'm going to do is take a snapshot of where this Docker image is at right now. Right, my Ubuntu Julius snapshot. And so that's how I created the images. And so now if I look at my images, sadly, yeah, I'll make it a little smaller. There, a little smaller. Guys, there we go. Julius Musseau, like I just made that one 19 seconds ago. So that's the general procedure here. And then once I'm happy with the image and ready to go, I upload it to all the various cloud registries to kick off their scanners. Okay. Before I dive in more, I guess I just stop for a second. Any questions at this point? Oh, we have another participant. It's Shannon Smith. And I'm giving everyone a microphone today if anyone wants to speak. Good to see you, Shannon. Okay. So as well, I'm looking at this. I just actually want to double check here. When I did the rezip, maybe that didn't perturb the SHA-1. So I'm going to do a quick little check on that. Okay. I'm going to go in there.
Hey, Julius.
Hey, Shannon.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late.
Don't let it happen again. Here. So I'm just, what I'm doing here is I'm just checking this. I had a part of the experiment was I rezipped the log4j, and I just want to make sure that that actually did something. So I'm just going to double check that. So what I've done here is I've downloaded log4j directly from Maven Central, the vulnerable version. Do we have a SHA-1 sum command? We do. Okay. And then let's see on this guy. This is after I rezipped it. Do we have a SHA-1 sum command? We do. Oh, yeah. So absolutely. So you can see, yeah, the SHA-1 got perturbed. I actually, on second thought, I thought it would, the SHA-1 would change because the date stamps changed in the file. But in retrospect, I don't think the date stamps changed. Probably just the ordering of the files in it changed. But nonetheless, oh, you don't even have unzip. Okay, nonetheless, yeah, you can see the order of the files was different, but the date stamps are all the same. They're all March 6th, okay, from 2021. But yeah, nonetheless, even though the SHA-1 got perturbed, the scanners were fine with that. So once I've created these images, the next step is to run it through all the scanners, right? So let's do that. Start with Trivy. How do I use you again, Trivy? And I will start with the base image, Trivy image. And this is what were you called, Mr. Image? Called base plus wget. So let's just see how the base image is doing. Does the base image, this is a fresh Ubuntu right off the presses on the LTS version. That's the long-term support version. And I've even run a dist upgrade on it, right? And sure enough, I'm getting all these CVEs back when I do a Trivy scan. Not very happy about that, honestly. And would I say, am I unhappy with Ubuntu? No, I love Ubuntu. And Ubuntu 20 is still LTS. They run LTS for 3 years. So Ubuntu 20 is going to be in LTS until 2023. We have another, 6 months still of LTS here. So, I mean, as an operator of these Docker images, I'm doing, my, what would you call it? My best practices. Like I'm practicing good security hygiene here. I'm making sure my Ubuntu image is patched and up to date. Let's just to show you like how patched and up to date it is. Let's go into that image right now. So what were you called? You were called Ubuntu base plus wget. Base plus wget. So I'm going to jump into the image. I'm in the image right now. Now, if there's going to be all these security vulnerabilities, to me, the implication there is, okay, uh-oh, I need to patch. I've got bad versions of stuff in my Ubuntu image. I better patch it and get it up to date. And so I'm going to do an apt update. So that's saying, you know, Ubuntu, give me your latest versions, give me your latest security updates. This doesn't actually install them. It just tells my local Ubuntu about them. It's like, oh, just so you know, here's some security updates that you might want to take. Okay, and then I'm going to do the dist upgrade. This is where it actually takes the security updates. This is the command to actually patch. And 0 upgraded, 0 new installed, 0 to remove, 0 not. Like, excuse me? Trivy is saying I have a ton of CVEs that even go back to 2016, but Ubuntu, when I actually ask it, please give me all the security updates, is saying, no, oh, we're all good. We got everything, right? So like, what's going on? So this was a bit surprising and disappointing. And so in terms of our experiment here, I call this the initial unexpected distracting problem, right? So all of the container scanners, all of them, are barfing a ton of uninteresting CVEs against Ubuntu 2004, even though I'm on the latest and greatest. So it's under active support. It's receiving security patches. So why are all the scanners reporting a bunch of vulns against this image? This doesn't make any sense to me. As an end user, there's nothing I can do here, right? Like my only choice is what? Switch to Alpine? Yeah, like I know Alpine is super small and the base image tends to not have any vulnerabilities, but like Ubuntu is, I'm sure Ubuntu knows about these, right? Like I'm sure the Ubuntu team is getting emails about these every day. And I'm sure the Ubuntu maintainers have decided for whatever reasons, no, we don't need to do anything about these. They don't affect us. You know, we're not vulnerable, like for whatever reason, right? The Ubuntu security team, like they're not slouches. They've decided not to address this. But meanwhile, the security scanner is telling me, an end user, about them, right? Even though there's nothing I can do about it. So like, except, you know, switch, like, should I switch to Mac OS or something? To me, this is like having a security scanner that is telling me, just to warn you, the sun is going to explode in 5 billion years. So just to warn you, sun is going to explode in 5 billion years every time I run a scan, right? I'm going to just stop for a second, see any questions, any comments?
That's funny. It's so true, though. I mean, right?
Yeah, like, what do you think, Shannon? What do you, why is this happening?
Well, it's just, you know, there's no filtering going on, obviously, and it's not remembering anything either. So,
like, and I mean, I think the scanners, in a way, like what they're saying makes sense. Like, I'm sure if I go to like this CVE, let's even go to this one. Well, they all are low severity. Let's go to this medium one even, right? This wget one, medium. And I take a look at it. Now, wget before 121.1 has some issue, right? And its severity is medium. And then I go here, and yeah, sure enough, we're on 1.20. We're not on 121.1. We're on 1.20.3. So it kind of makes sense that, yeah, we might be vulnerable to this, but I feel like they're telling the wrong person. The scanner here, you need to be telling Ubuntu. You don't tell me, tell Ubuntu. Like, this is not useful information for me. Anyway, as you can see, so Trivia is reporting that. Gripe is going to say the same thing. It's just updating its vulnerability database before it does its scan. And then while it's doing that, let's look at the others, right? So sure enough, right, against base plus wget, it's still reporting 8 vulnerabilities from Google Cloud. And sure enough, that same wget vulnerability is being reported. I'm like, hello, doesn't pertain to me. You're telling the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. Base plus wget. Okay, so actually I kind of like what Docker Hub's doing here in their teaming up with SNCC apparently. And they're saying 0 highs. Oh, but they're still reporting the medium and the low. Okay, so my mistake. No, they're still complaining about wget. So no, never mind. Docker Hub fails. X-ray, our JFrog X-ray base image. And we got 7 vulnerabilities. Oh, security issues. Just got to figure out how to click through this. And what are you? Well, that's the wget one. Yeah, exactly. Wget, same one. No, like I don't want to be told about this. It doesn't pertain to me. Go tell Ubuntu, and tell the Ubuntu package maintainers, maybe tell them once, right? Like don't tell the whole world every time a scan is done. I bet you the Ubuntu package maintainers, especially the package maintainer for wget, is being essentially DOS attacked, like a global distributed denial of service attack. They are probably getting emails about this every day. Okay, and then sure enough,
And you said this version of Ubuntu is current until next year.
Yeah, until April of 2023.
And when was it released?
It was released. The nice thing about Ubuntu versioning is they always release in April of the year, and they called a version that. So this was Docker, pull Ubuntu 20.04. That means it was released in April of 2020, and their LTS is good for 3 years. So that means it's good until March of 2023. There's another, you can get 2204 as well. That's a newer LTS version, and they just run it every 2 years. So 20.04 is good for 3 years. 22.04 is good for 3 years. And you just have to stay on top of that.
And you wouldn't expect Ubuntu is going to fix this 20.04 for some low or even medium that are not really important. They're not. Yeah. They're probably not going to update those. They're going to focus on 2022.04, right?
Oh no. They definitely take the security.
No, I'm just saying because it's such a low issue.
Yeah, maybe that's why. I mean, that could be why, that they just don't consider it important enough to backport. I'd have to ask them. I'm sure there's probably 100 emails on their mailing list explaining why they're not doing it.
22.04.
Sure.
Do they have the same ones? Same.
I'll do the exact same. Let's do the exact same exercise here.
Okay.
Oh. I'm gonna grab. I mean, I can't use my base because I haven't put wget on it yet, but here I will. Apt update. Apt get wget, and I like to zip and unzip too. Install. So now we're installing. Get an update, and then do the dist upgrade. Make sure we have all the latest patches here. This is on the 2204 instead of the 2004. And now that I've done all that, I just need to turn it into a tag. Container list. Take you and save you. Ubuntu 2204 with wget. And then tag. I mean, I could just scan it with Trivy right now. Let's just do that. Let's just scan it with Trivy. So Grape, what are you going to say, Grape? Yeah, no, it's still complaining about the wget, even on the 2204. I mean, sure enough, what is the wget version?
Well, yeah, because the CVE came out in what 2000 or 2021, right? So
Yeah.
it's understandable that it's in 20.04. I'm a little like more now questioning why it's in this version. There must be some functionality that they had to have and they couldn't use the updated one, or maybe it's just not updated yet.
I don't think they're going to update it. Like, I don't think the Ubuntu security team, I don't think they consider this important enough to update for whatever reason. And I'd have to go look at their mailing list to see why they've made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, they're a good security team, right? They're no slouches.
Yeah.
So they've made a decision. And on behalf of all end users, I mean, you're right, like hundreds of thousands of people run Ubuntu. The security team has made this decision. And now all the security scanners are just going to ignore that decision and spam end users with this useless information.
Noise.
Yeah, noise. Yeah, exactly. It's frustrating noise.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, like chain
This
guard.
is why people hate securities, because they have too many vulnerabilities, most of which they don't need to deal with, and they can't figure out which ones they do need to deal with.
Chain guard is interesting, right? They're kind of attacking this problem head on by putting out images that are essentially optimized to avoid this, right? So they're a startup in Seattle, a software supply chain startup, really focused on container images and container security. Whereas, merge base were more SCA, more about like vulnerable libraries. But yeah, I like their approach where they're just like, we're gonna just make sure that these things are not in our images, right? So they're sort of like anticipating all the noise that the scanners are making, and they're like, oh, look at ChainGuard, we're and look at our Wolfie image, we're better because scanners say we're clean, right? It's almost like they're just like, well, we're just going to assume the scanners are kind of morons here. Sorry to speak so uncouthly. But essentially, I think the scanners are being morons here to report this. And so I like that ChainGuard is like, well, let's just assume all the scanners are going to continue being morons, and let's, sort of create special images that are optimized for this that will come out as clean scans if we assume the scanners are never going to change. Whereas I think the scanners should change. The scanners should be telling this stuff to Ubuntu once a quarter instead of to every user that does a scan every day. Anyway, moving on though, back to the Log4j thing and this experiment. This was an unanticipated sort of obstacle early on in this experiment I did, but let's move on. Okay, so for hard mode, I've already shown everyone here how I brought Log4j into the container image. And then, let's look at the medium mode first. Okay. So I just have to remember what I called it. Docker images. What did I call you? Oh, Log4j scan difficulty easy. I think medium is a little more interesting. Hey, so this is nice, right? I'm saying, like, I put a vulnerable version of Log4j in. I'm going to run the scanner now. Now here's all this nonsense stuff that I'm not interested. But this is what I wanted to see. I was like, if I just put a log4j.jar in a random location in this image, right? And if you remember, log4j scan difficulty medium. Remember that I just put it in the opt directory, right? So it's just sitting there in the opt directory. Nice log4j vulnerable with the devastating vulnerability from December. Yeah, awesome, right? I found it, it reported it. That, this is the one, 2021 44228. If you're ever doing if you ever are on a job interview at MergeBase or any of these scanners, right, you just ask them, okay, Log4j CV, what is it? Tell me it's CVE. And if they can't say CVE 2021 44228, then you don't hire them. Everyone has to have memorized that. And then sure enough, all the others, similar sort of situation here. So I go back. So here I am. I'm Google Cloud. Let's do medium. Look at medium. It's got 12 vulnerabilities. And then sure enough, it's freaking out about the log4j. Awesome. Good work, Google. Docker Hub. You can see they even on their they actually have a special section on their main like sort of summary page just for the log4j vulnerability. And so medium, which one? Well, because of the ellipsis, I can't tell which is which, but is it you? Medium, yeah. And it's freaking out. It's saying log4shell, CVE. So good work, Docker Hub. A little bit surprised that you're actually dedicating UI just to a single CVE in your main page, but you can be you. I'm not gonna stop you. And then here, this was X-ray by JFrog. Okay, that was hard. Medium, there you are. And let's go to security issues. Vulnerabilities. Awesome. CV 2021-4422. Yes, right? Okay. So everyone's looking pretty good in terms of medium mode. Oh, but SNCC was a slightly problematic. Like they could do it, but you had to give them a non-default you had to give them a non-default tag. If I just did it like this, with the default, just default like no extra command line arguments, then it's finding the wget that I was already ranting about earlier, and it's finding all these other ones that are just, they're all from Ubuntu, right? Like they're all from the Ubuntu base image. They're not real vulnerabilities. But it didn't find log4j that I put in there. So I was like, what's going on? But then when I typed, you know, so to me, that's like just bad usability, bad UX. If I type SNCC container -s help, I was like, come on, surely there's a way. Like, how could you guys not find log4j? And then it's like, oh, allow detection of vulnerabilities from container images as well as the operating system. Like, I don't know, SNCC, like, are you guys insane? Right? Like nobody understands these sentences, right? So I have to add this flag and I actually have to understand this this sentence, right? Like what do you mean container images versus operating system? Like, I don't know. I just like, I think they need to make this the default behavior, basically, is what I'm saying, because this is just too complicated and nuanced. Like, sure, I'm an SCA, founder. I founded an SCA company. I know what they're talking about. I don't think anyone else knows what they're talking about. So what was it? I had to say app vulns. Okay, app vulns. And oh, yay, now it found it. But of course, SNCC likes to rename everything. So they don't actually mention CVE 2021-44228 because they want you to go to their website instead. Like they want you to record it as, SNCC, Java, org Apache, logging, log4j 2314720 instead. I think it's like gives them better SCA or something, right? Oh, here. So once I click through a bit, then I found it. Okay, yeah, they found it. But you see the problem. I had to add that flag. And so to me, I was like, well, you guys are working in easy mode. I'm going to give you a no in medium mode, but I'm going to put a little asterisk just to let people know, like, there is a flag that you can add to the command line, and then it finds it. Otherwise, everyone else is doing good. And the funny thing is Docker Hub is apparently all their scanning is implemented using SNCC, but Docker Hub is not requiring a special flag or a special setting. It's just, I guess under the hood, Docker Hub knows to add that flag. Any questions, comments, concerns, random mutterings? Okay, I'm going to move on here to hard mode and show you what I did. So for hard mode, what I do essentially is I take, I can't take, it's funny, initially I actually took log4j scan difficulty medium and went in and then, unzipped it. Oh, I have to add. And then remove the 3 files and then rezipped it. But then it didn't work. Like all the scanners were all like, yeah, log4j, log4j, log4j. And I was like, oh, but I took out the metadata. Like, why are they all reporting? And I realized, oh, Docker has this layer metaphor. So you have your base layer, and then you have a layer on top of that where you made edits and did whatever you did to the file system. And then you have the layer on top of that. So what would happen is my base layer was Ubuntu 20. And then I added wget. And then I brought in log4j. And then I edited log4j. So on the tip layer at the very top, the metadata was removed. But the scanners are actually looking at all the layers. They're not looking at the final layer. The final layer is the layer that matters. The final layer is the layer you're actually running. And so if your final layer has a bunch of deletes and modifications and edits, like suppose your final layer deletes every log4j file, and there's no more log4j in your Docker image, but because the layer before still had it, the scanners are all freaking out. So that's, again, I think that's a mistake. The scanner shouldn't be doing that, because I care about, my running container. Is my running container vulnerable? Like the layer before that had log4j in it, that doesn't matter. That's not what I'm running. I'm running the final layer. So stop being all fancy and weird, guys, and scan the thing that's running. Don't scan, 18, edits ago. I'm not interested. But that confused me. So then I realized, okay, I have to do this from my base plus wget. And then from there, we're going to grab log4j, Maven. The 2014.1 is the vulnerable one. So I'm going to bring it down. Do I have zip? No, not yet. I have to install it again. And then, so what I'm just doing, I just unzip it. Jar files are just zip files. A lot of library files like nuggets and new package and DLLs and rubies and gems. Well, not DLLs, but like pretty much everything else. They all just use zip. So you can just shoot zip and unzip at them. So now that I've unzipped it, I'm going to remove those files. So manifest mf, and the reason I remove it, right, is because it's a text file. Oh, you don't. Oh, just cat you. But in it, it's saying like, I'm log4j and I'm version 214.1, right? So I just want to remove that because it makes life too easy for the scanners. And then here, similarly, you can see if you look at this file, right? It's saying, I'm log4j and I'm version 214.1. I'm like, no, that's easy mode. Well, it's medium mode, as we're calling it. So I'm going to remove you, and I'm going to remove you. Okay, so those are removed. And then what I'm going to do is rezip it. Right. Okay, and now I've rezipped it now that those files are removed. And let's just clean up here. So would everyone agree, like this log4j, so it doesn't have the manifest, right? And it doesn't have those POM files. What I'm doing there, right, like is just, taking a listing of everything that's in it and just saying like, well, do you have manifest? Do you have POM? No, you don't. It comes back nothing. But it still has all the logic, right? It still has all these class files. These are the actual Java code that, constitutes log4j. I mean, this brings me back to my opening quote here, right? Log4j, wherefore art thou log4j? A lot of people think Juliet is saying, where are you, Romeo? But she's not. Wherefore means why. Like, why is your name Romeo? So why is your name log4j? That which we call a Java logging framework by any other name would surely log as sweet. That was super nerdy, right?
Oh, I love it.
And so what I've done here is I've basically taken log4j's driver's license away, right? I've said, okay, look, give me your driver's license, throwing it in the garbage. You don't have a driver's license anymore, but you're still log4j. You still have the vulnerability, right? And then I throw this thing at all the scanners, right? And sure enough, let's take a look what happens. I called it log4j scan difficulty hard. Yeah, all right. So we're still getting this wget, we're still getting this noise, but it doesn't think log4j is in there anymore, right? Uh-oh. And similarly, you can see with these guys, if I go back. Right, like if you recall, base image, that's just like, that has no log4j. And then you can see hard, well, it's having the same number. It's saying 8 vulnerabilities. So it's not detecting log4j. It's saying it's the same as the base image. Like, no, it's not. And same with them, all of them. They're all doing that. Right? You can see the base image. Everything's good. Our scan didn't detect. That's wild that that's actually in the UI. And then here's hard mode. Everything's good. No log4j, right? And then similarly for X-ray, base plus wget, 7 vulnerabilities. Scan difficulty hard, 7 vulnerabilities. Similar problem. So, moment of truth. What about merge base? Name equals log4j. And of course, because log4j, merge base doesn't use metadata. Merge base actually looks at the code inside the jar files. And sure enough, there we go. I scanned log4j scan difficulty hard, and we found it. It's our webinar, like, so I'm sure everyone's very surprised.
So what, just stupid question, why are the modes called easy, medium, and hard?
Sure. So easy mode was done basically doing apt-get install lib log4j. And so basically container scanning is based on a foundation of I think in lib-log4j too. The foundation of container scanning is, well, package management. The package database knows every package that I've installed through the operating system. There's sort of a notion of like, what is operating system and then what is, not operating system. And so here, what I'm doing is I'm installing lib-log4j inside the sphere of operating system. And so if it's inside the sphere of operating system, then a container scanner has to be able to catch it. Right here, I'm just going to install log4j on my own computer that we're doing this webinar from. Whatever, I'd have to figure out its name. So that's easy mode, right? Because that's still in the land of, there we go, of I'm still part of the operating system. All these packages are kind of part of the operating for me to enhance and extend my operating system. So that's just table stakes for container scanning. It has to be able to handle that. That's why I called it easy mode. Medium difficulty, well, now I'm not in the operating system sphere anymore. Now I'm just downloading random files to my system, right? And so, log4j from Maven directly to disk. Well, this is a very simplified version of what we do as software engineers. As software engineers, we put together this application, your special web app that you want to run in a fancy Kubernetes cluster with scalable uptime deployed to the internet. Well, that essentially that's going to be a collection of files. And those files aren't going to be coming in through the operating system because they're my system, my merge base app, or my my what's my Facebook app if I work for Facebook, right? This is going to be custom code just for Facebook coming in with all these files that end up on the disk. So medium mode is sort of, if we think of how application development works and how the files get deployed to the Docker images, this is sort of like, this is how it works. It's actually very rare for developers to ever reference their libraries through package management. Nobody does that. Everyone always does it this way. So just kind of medium, normal, right? And a year ago, when I tested this, the scanners couldn't handle this. Like if I was downloading jar files just to disk, the scanners were not noticing. So this is an improvement, although I actually kind of suspect that they're only noticing it this time because I picked Log4j. And if I picked Bouncy Castle, or if I picked OpenSSL, well, OpenSSL is pretty high profile, but if I picked Jackson Databind, these are libraries that they're just not as famous as Log4j, but they still have vulnerabilities. And I'm going to try this actually later this week, because I'm going to turn this into a blog post just to see, do they still, does medium mode work for all jar files, or is it just because Log4j is so special and so famous? And then finally, hard mode. Well, that's just where I'm removing the driver's license. I'm stripping out the metadata that makes it so easy for the scanners to identify these things.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then I mean, really, there's 2 or 3 conclusions for this this webinar today, right? So I'd say, first of all, right, like, the scanners are not actually looking at the logic. So you could have Log4j come in there, and if it's got different metadata or no metadata, or the metadata was tampered, the scanners aren't going to find it. No scanner except MergeBase will find it. When evaluating scanners, I think it's really important to put together, a sample where you know what the results should be, and then see what the scanners say. So I think that's a really important conclusion from today. And then finally, about that distracting problem, the scanners need to stop sending all that noise, because they're reporting, basically when they do a scan, they need to divide the results into 2 sections, 2 groups. One group goes to the end user, because this is useful, important information. Oh, end user, you're not up to date. You need to patch. You need to take these updates. And then one set of results needs to just go to Ubuntu quarterly to be like, hey, Ubuntu, there's a lot of container scans happening in the world. And we're noticing these are on your images, just to let you know, like, is there anything you want to do about it? Like, yeah, they're sending the data to the wrong people. Any final, I feel like I talked a lot. Shannon, very grateful for you joining, though. That really, it's always fun to have a bit of interaction. But again, everyone, you don't have to, right? Like, we do this webinar to educate, inform, right? Like, absolutely no responsibility of others to participate, but I really loved the participation, Shannon. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone?
Another question. So, I mean, I'm a little surprised to hear that MergeBase is the only scanner available to scan, for these vulnerabilities in containers that will actually look at the code versus just the metadata and the, kind of SBOM, if you will. Like, is that really, there's nothing else out there that will actually look at what's in the container, as opposed to what the metadata or other tags are telling you is in the container? Seems like an easy attack vector, because
I think right now, the way the market is comprised, you basically need SCA and container scanning, because container scanning has a gap here, and so you need to bring SCA and container scanning together. So yeah, like I mean, this was the thesis of this webinar, which is the container scanning it's not as good as you think, and it's not catching things that you think it would.
What about this company you mentioned in Seattle, ChainGuard or whatever? Are they looking for CVEs as well, or that's not really their bailiwick?
They don't. Well, maybe they are, but I think it's still early days for them, and I can't. I should do a webinar with one of them, and because they could speak to what they're doing. But I don't think they're really focused on the medium mode right now. Like,
Right.
I think they're really focused on the base image and on this noise that's coming in. So the nice thing about ChainGuard is, if you're using a ChainGuard image, you're not going to have just that noise that I was showing. It's just not going to happen, because their images are just optimized to not report any of that.
So that is one common problem that they are solving there.
Yeah, like instead of the scanners, instead of having the scanners get smarter, chain guard is just kind of being like, well, the scanners are going to stay stupid, so
Right.
we're going to work with that.
I see. Interesting.
Well, guys,
So Julius, one more question.
Nice.
With all of this, one of the things that you've kind of talked about are the false positives. Any scenarios that you've come across that actually show the false negatives?
Oh, where they just outright missed the scan?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I was playing around with I always play around with JCH. But it's not a very important vulnerability, but let's see. I think if they yeah, so what I did is, I mean, I did this a long time ago, but we could see if they're finding it. What I called it, step 3. So I put a vulnerable version of JCH in that image. It's a very old image, right? But no, they're not mentioning. So here they're not mentioning JCH. Why aren't they catching JCH? I don't know. How about you? Container test app loans. And I plan to, like I was saying in the webinar, I'm going to try and do some stuff with Bouncy Castle and with what was the other one called? A Jackson data bind to see, okay, so SNCC actually caught the JCH here. That's good. But the others, but is it because they're just not aware of it? Like, are they just not tracking that vulnerability because it's just not that important to them? I don't know.
Okay.
And I mean, the reason I use JCH as a sample, right? If you look here, it's just, it's a single library. It's a terminal library. It doesn't have a big dependency chain coming in. So it just brings itself. And then, 053 is vulnerable to this. So it's just a very nice, simple test case. You put in 053, see what it says. You put in 055, see what it says.
Right.
And yeah, so when I play with JCH, except SNCC, none of the other container scanners catch it. I think X-ray catches it, but none of the others. So yeah, certainly there can be issues there too, especially in this medium mode. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Julius.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming, and thanks for talking as well. But thanks to everyone who didn't talk as well.